Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TTV Modcast, episode 20.
That's 20 consecutive episodes of Modcast for you.
Dude, that's like 4 times half 10, man. That's amazing.
We're like 1/20th to what TTV has done.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ray. So, who are we?
That's a good question. Who are you, Waj?
I am Waj.
I'm Chronicler.
I am Son.
I'm John Smith.
I'm Lego Master.
And I am Indigo Geek.
Before we get to our thing that we're doing, I want to give shoutouts to people who have done amazing thumbnail art for the Modcast. For the last episode on the Ignition Trilogy, that artwork was done by Pekakoa of Jungle, or the drawing was, and it was colored in by Can. So shoutouts to you guys. Thank you, and love it. And for this episode, our thumbnail art has been done by Trev44, who actually did episode 17 as well. So, shout out to you, Trev. You're an awesome guy for this Power Rangers style mod squad, the Mod Squad Rangers. Today, on the Modcast, we're doing our second QANDA.
Whoa, yeah, QANDA. Waj, what is a QANDA?
So last time we did a QANDA was episode 10, and it is a Q&A. So you guys have asked us questions on Bird Chatter and on the last episode, and we are going to attempt to answer them. So, our first question comes from @Leo Zandar, and he asks, what are your favorite Bionicle / CCBS MOCs that you have seen?
I really like combo models. That's kind of what I do. I don't really make real MOCs anymore. I just make combo models because that's what I enjoy. And one of the combo models that has really stood out to me is @Tatarak on the boards. He's made various versions of a Toa Nui, and I feel like this one right here is probably one of my favorites. Just the shaping of it is generally pretty good. And, that's just using only parts from the original Toamata, which, if you can make something good out of that isn't, like, completely blocky and disgusting, it's pretty tough to do. So it's pretty articulated, this particular iteration of the Toa Nui. It's got some pretty interesting weapons to it that are callbacks to Akmai and Wawruha. I don't know how to pronounce either of those. Wa and Ach, the two Toa Kaeda, from G1. Wa and Ach. Together they are Wach. Overall, I like it.
So, this mock right here, I can't even comp how he got all those pieces together. It's like eye candy. Like, everything I look at it, I just there's so many things. I like mocks that are smooth. The second one was made by Lycus. Yeah, the Sigma Takken is a pretty great mock. The head is fantastic. The layering is great. And all around it looks, I think overall it's another really smooth.
This is the Ammonoidea Victim. It's like a squid done by the Chosen One on the boards. I find more simplistic MOCs really nice. I don't know what it is. I guess just having a small amount of pieces that you can put together in interesting ways, especially if you can create like a little creature out of it. I find those to be really, really cool. And just this mock is just perfect. Like, the shell is made out of, like, the skull grinder armor pieces. It's a really interesting design that he's done, especially with, just the body is really intriguing. So I really like that a lot.
I really, really like revamps. My favorite revamp kind of MOCs that I've seen is Skull Basher by the extremely talented Logan McCohen. And this is just a mock that I really like because it takes an official set that I never really liked and takes a lot of its characteristics, its concepts, and amplifies them and just makes them so much better without Lego's parts constraints. So it's a case of really what I love in revamps, where people can take ideas that Lego had and made into sometimes okay to decent sets and then make them into really amazing MOCs with their own pieces.
I've seen a really cool one on the boards from a while back that I think was called Dionysus, God of Mischief, and I don't remember who made it, but it was a really cool mock. It was huge, but unlike most gigantic mocks, it actually had a good color scheme, and the build didn't look really sloppy. That's about all I got.
There's this user in Custom Bionicle Wiki called Bob the Doctor. He makes some really cool Bionicle Star revamps of characters. I'm particularly a fan of his Astis. I think they're pretty legit, but that's just me.
Our next question comes from @Umarak, and he asks, what are each of your favorite G2 sets?
For me, I'd have to pick out Liwa, oddly enough. It's a set, but I think it has a really build to it, and I like the legs. And then I'm also a huge fan of Umarak. I know the neck isn't the best, but I think the size kind of outweighs that.
That's Umarak the Destroyer, right?
Yes, Umarak the Destroyer.
I want to say Onua 2015 or Onua 2016. Either one of those are really good, in my opinion. The 2016 has flaws, and the 2015 has flaws, but overall, I think they work pretty well. Skull Scorpio would be my favorite, and I know that's a bit of a off-kilter, unconventional answer there, but I don't know. There's something about Skull Scorpio. I've mentioned it previously. The grabby grab function. It's really fun. It's really interesting to work with. It really feels like a callback to the original Rahi from 2001 in a lot of ways. And yes, it isn't the most posable thing in the world, but neither were the G1 sets, so I think it's an alright set, in my opinion. Still a lot better than Qatar, that's for sure.
So my favorite G2 sets would probably be Onua 2015, and I don't own Umarak, but Umarak just looks really good. So I like Umarak, but I don't have it. But for one that I do have, I definitely say Onua 2015.
I think my favorite Gen 2 set is probably Galley 2015. Big fan of Kopaka 2015 as well.
Right now, probably since I just built him recently, Umarak the Hunter I find is a really, really nicely designed set. He just has a great color scheme. Lots of complexity. It's just one of those sets that I feel really utilized CCBS and the Technic building systems together kind of to make something that we had never really seen in Bionicle before.
I don't know that I really have a favorite. Overall, I think I prefer the Uniters personally, so I guess I'd say either Paka, maybe Onua would be my favorite.
Ninja Nick TF asks, which mod would you say is the hardest to work with?
Just generally speaking, 6 people who are basically adults, with fairly busy schedules, it gets to be a little bit difficult with scheduling in general. As far as just working, moderating, it's usually fine.
Yeah, it's usually fine. We all seem to work together quite well, so it's all good. From Uni, we have Mod Squad. As a team of superheroes, Bionicle characters, or appropriately with the thumbnail, Power Rangers. How would it work in terms of powers, cooperation, and awesomeness? Well, okay, so as far as Bionicle goes, I'd probably be a Ice, Toa, or Stone. I don't know, Ice or Stone would probably be my go-to elements.
I think what Uni is trying to ask here is just in general, if we were a group of heroes, what would our dynamics be as far as who would be the leader and who would be the smart guy and who would be the dumb and heavy but likable one? That might be me. I want that to be me. That is me. As far as series goes, I've always gravitated more towards the big guys. I think Nexo Knights. I like Axel. Think of Voltron. I like Hunk. Indy would probably be a Lancer type.
Yeah. I mean, as far as say Voltron, I'd say Indy's definitely Lance. Master of Babes, man. Master of Babes.
Yeah.
I think it would work more like the Justice League, where one of us would be I don't, because someone would be Batman, us would be the Flash. We'd all have opposing ideals, but eventually it's we can work together, I guess. I think I'd probably be more of a speedy character, if anything.
I guess if I were choosing a superhero persona, I'd probably go with the Doctor, because that's who my online persona already references, and so I'd just end up working by myself and solving all the problems with time travel.
For me, I don't really have a defined thing about kind of a team or a superhero power or anything like that. I just think in general, going by my personality, I would kind of be the support role, one of those members who stays back a little bit, maybe in combat scenarios, is kind of the ranged person, and who just tries to support the people who are really getting in there and who are really getting into the thick of the action, while I kind of stay back, a little bit more thought out, a little bit more tactical, just, say picking off enemies from afar or something like that.
From the infamous Lime Libertarian 24.
Hey!
Yeah.
Hooray! We finally got a perma-band member to watch our podcast.
A permaband member that wasn't also permaband from the podcast channel, because I have done that. Just...
Oh. Well,
anyway, so his question is, what do you think would have happened if the Ignition Trilogy got movies just like 2003, 2005 did? We talked about the Ignition Trilogy in the last episode, and how, well, I was sort of disappointed by the fact that we didn't get movies, but it sort of dawned on me that, yeah, I mean, if we did get movies for those years, they'd probably be at the same level of quality as Mask of Light, which is to say, not incredibly good. As well, it seems like the longer a franchise puts out movies or has say another trilogy to go with, it just seems like they diminish in quality. And I mean, I'm satisfied with the stuff that we got. The story commercials were great.
I am in agreement. 06 was the start of just so much world building and serials and books and backstories. You can't properly convey that in a movie. That's what I think a lot of people don't understand, is that when you have to translate something into a movie, you have to remove so much out of it. If I had a choice to go back and give the Ignition Trilogy a movie, I wouldn't. Just because I feel like that would diminish it, and it would obviously be trash, because all the Bionicle movies are trash.
I really wanted a Nika Trilogy movie based off the older ones, but I don't think the art style would have cut it for the older movies' animation, because I think the Nika Trilogy worked best when it was told in the comics, especially the visual style. They did that with a movie that had to replicate something like that, and it would work a lot better, especially since 2006 was a lot more darker.
I think that if 2006 to 2008 had been a movie or a series of movies, more likely, a couple of things I think would have worked or not worked. First of all, 2006 would have had to be less dark than it was, because I don't think that the way the story was told originally in the books would have ever been okay as an official Lego film. The only reason Greg got away with what he did in the books, with the Matoran falling into the volcanoes and all of this other dark, depressing stuff, was because it was book form. It wasn't in any way visual. And I think that authors can get away with a lot in books and written mediums. Directors can't really do that sort of dark stuff in children's movies to the same degree. So I don't think that 2006's story would have really worked in its form that we know it as.
Having movies in those years would have been a bad idea, and here's why. In 2003 through 2005, first half of the year always ended up being a filler arc that was just kind of spinning the wheels while we were waiting for the movie to come out. And then the movies inevitably ended up being not really the greatest things ever. The overall story quality of Bionicle was kind of sagging, especially in 2005. And I think not having movies allowed the story team, especially Greg, to tell more story and also tell better story without having that structural limitation of having to have the first part of the year be filler and then focus on the not so great movie.
From @Onawa, what would you guys do with your lives if TTV was to pull the plug on the boards forever? I do spend quite a lot of times on the boards. I usually have a tab open. Yeah, I'd probably try to find another message boards, not necessarily to moderate, but to just hang out. Also, just in general, I spend a lot of my times on YouTube and just watching videos and talking to people on Discord or Skype. That's basically what I would be doing, just other things.
Pretty much my story as well. Yeah, I do spend a fair bit of time on the boards. If they were to pull the plug on it, I'm a part of several different communities on Skype and Discord. It's not like I'd be completely cut off from everyone and everything. Life goes on. It's not like being a moderator is my full-time job. I have a job. I go to school. It's not like my life revolves around it.
I don't really know what I would be doing. Probably going around like Wikia sites, editing stuff. Probably focusing more on Marvel, if anything, since Bionicle's done. Or I would just be writing Emerald comics still.
For me, the boards are a really important part of my online presence, and I've transitioned most of my attention from my YouTube channel to the boards, creatively and just in terms of like where I spend most of my time, where I post most of my mocks. I really focused a lot more on the boards because I feel like they're a much more responsive, much more tight-knit community than anything on like YouTube or Flickr or other fan sites where Bionicle fans congregate. So if the boards suddenly just stopped existing, I don't know if I could find another fan site with just the same community feeling that we've built up here.
I would probably play more video games.
Our next question comes from @Sammy the Cat, and he asks, what was the worst controversy/issue each of y'all had to deal with? A common controversial issue is whenever there are female mocks posted on the boards, like, that is like one of the big things that just triggers everyone for some reason. Like, either the criticism of those mocks become so hostile that we have to intervene, or there may be some not so appropriate things posted.
As far as like the best type of controversy or issue, which isn't in the question, but I'll answer it anyway. There are certain users who, in their disregarding of the rules and their complete inability to understand stuff, are absolutely hilarious. They're fun to deal with because they just don't understand. Those are the best type of people. When it's entertaining with people, it's great.
People always making dupe accounts, and some of them claiming, "Oh, this is just my cousin or whatever," and we have to investigate. It's just a huge pain having to figure them all out.
Dealing with flamers or spammers or what have you, but also keeping other people from attacking them.
@Can asks, if you had the chance to start your own community, would you do it? I definitely like the idea of starting, like, my own community. It'd have to be a pretty niche, something that it doesn't already exist. I find that we already kind of are starting a small subsection of another subsection of a community. But yeah, I really like that.
I think it depends on the context. Like, is this a situation where TTV is gone and we're rebuilding it? Is this like I want to make a Gravity Falls community or something like that? There are so many things that already have communities. It would be difficult to find something that isn't already something. So, like, for example, if we were to create our own Lego-based website, call it tvmodcast.com, if we were to do that and try to, like, compete with, like, the boards and try to compete with BZP and, like, try to compete with Eurobricks, that would be a completely different scenario just because what would we offer that those other sites wouldn't? If it was a completely blank slate, I would probably do it. Just because, like you already said, Waj, we have kind of already started our own community. It's kind of tiny, but it is there.
If I were to start my own community, it would probably be based off of Marvel stuff, mostly because that's something I'm really educated in, or history too. Maybe start a community about history.
I would not, absolutely not, try to start my own community because I kind of tried to do that for several years. In retrospect, I realized that that's kind of what creating a YouTube channel in part is. It's that you're trying to kind of gain people's attention and slowly but surely create a community of viewers who you can interact with consistently in the comment section and stuff like that. And that is incredibly difficult. It takes a huge amount of time and energy to get anywhere near like a decent level of not only just people who comment on your videos, but people who come back regularly and who are willing to engage in some form of community. It's such a huge time sink, and there's so many other quote-unquote communities out here like the message boards that I just do not see the point in it. I don't even see the point in really thinking about it because I am more than happy with the community that we have right here.
I'd probably try starting a YouTube channel and talking about like books or movies or games or what have you.
We have 2 questions from this guy @itrank, and he asks, what are your thoughts on the ending of Bionicle Gen 2 and how it was handled? We will answer this question on the next episode of the modcast because we're going to talk Journey 1. He asks, have you ever have dreams of Solek coming down from the heavens and sending lightning and holy lasers onto you?
Whoa, 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 whoa! Hold the phone! We have an original joke here. Call the presses. Call CTV. Call BZP. Call Eurobricks. Call all of them. This is the most original and amazing joke of all time. I think this needs to be clarified. Select jokes at one point were funny. Back whenever it was Makuta Fest 2015. For a small period of time, it was funny. After a little bit of time, it got stale. Then TTV said it was getting annoying. TTV stopped the select jokes. And if you made a select joke after that, it was sort of funny, but not really funny. It is now over a year since that joke has been relevant. It's not funny if it was an original joke, but this is literally just, oh, haha, praise Solek, he is everlasting. There's nothing original about it. There's no joke. I apologize, Rank. I'm kind of ripping you to shreds here, but nothing personal against you. But just in general, people who still make Solek jokes, it's just like, please move on. There is nothing funny about Solek anymore.
Our next question comes from @thePizzaCheetah, and he comments on all of the modcasts, it seems, and writes these really long paragraph essay type comments. And this is no different. And I appreciate you, PizzaCheetah. You put a lot of thought into your comments, so shoutouts to you. He says, as an small child, I loved the complexity of Bionicle's story and understood most of it, even though I was only 12 when Bionicle ended. Granted, I'd say I'm pretty smart, but I want to know if you guys had an easy time with the complex story when you were younger.
I seem to follow the storyline pretty fine. Something that Gen 1 had that I still to this day don't really understand is locations, because they're all in domes inside of a robot, but there's oceans, and it's confusing in certain ways, even to me today, being a 19-year-old not child.
Winterstorm345 asks, was it trippy talking with Future Watch, and did you tear any holes in the space-time continuum? Well, what happens was that, a wormhole is created momentarily, and I am the one to do it, or rather, me from the past. Future is the one to open the wormhole, and then me from the future goes and uses my recording stuff, grabs it into the wormhole. Future Watch takes my microphone and my laptop in and keeps it in sort of the event horizon, and so it's both in future time and in past time, and then so he just does the recording, and I get it as well. And so there is a lot of time manipulation, so the answer is yes. @Chili asks, what are your thoughts on Nexo Knights?
I watched the first 2 episodes of the show, and it was better than Journey to 1, in my opinion. It's kind of just the most generic character tropes that you can throw into a show, and it's not terribly engaging. As far as the sets, with the blue and the trans orange, it's just a weird combination. I'm not super into Nexo Knights, but I think it has potential.
I haven't really been involved in it really much. I mean, it looks cool, but I'm not really invested in it per se. I've been mostly invested in the Lego Marvel Superheroes line, so it's not something for me. It looks really cool, though.
For me, Nexo Knights is one of those things that is really weird because it basically puts 2 of my favorite things together, which is fantasy and sci-fi. But I don't necessarily like those 2 things together. So Nexo Knights is a line that for me has a ton of really, really nice, really, really cool, new, useful pieces that it's introduced. There's so much cool stuff that they brought out with it, but overall, I think that the theme looks cool. It just doesn't really interest me. I think that that's partly because it's targeting a demographic that is well below kind of my current demographic and what I would currently be interested in. The villains are just a little bit too cartoony for my taste. I think that they're well designed. It's a very solid theme, but like a lot of Lego stuff these days, it's just not for me.
I'm in a similar boat. The sets look really neat, but they wouldn't match my existing collection of castle sets, so I don't really have any interest in getting the sets.
From Slime, dear Wudge, why are you the best moderator? It's not a question, it's a statement. You are the best moderator.
Thanks, Slime. From @Wadon, if you all woke up and found out you were a Pokemon, what one would you be, and what will be one pro and con? I'd probably pick, like, Slacking. He has it easy, man. He chills a lot. The disadvantage would be his ability. It's just like, if I wanted to go on my computer, I'd turn on my computer, and then I'd just immediately go to sleep, and then wake up moments later and do something else. So, I mean, that's a pro and a con.
I feel like an Aeron would be cool, just eating dirt and rocks.
I would probably wake up as a Magikarp because Magikarp's like my favorite Pokemon, and a pro would be that nobody would want to catch me. I mean, come on, nobody likes Magikarp. I guess another pro was that I would be caught and then I'd become an awesome Gyarados. Con would be is that apparently Magikarp are eaten, so I'd probably be like caught and then killed and then eaten. So that sounds fun.
From Ranaki Pakewa. Hey Ranaki, do you appreciate last minute questions? These next questions are last minute questions, so yeah. From @TobyEchozap, he asks, if you were to wipe out a whole species without it having any effect on the world apart from just it's gone, what would it be? Probably any insect. If there's no repercussions, then mosquitoes.
They're the most annoying out of all things. Like, even most insects, if you leave them alone, they won't bother you. But mosquitoes, they actively go out of their way to annoy you. And they carry diseases, and if we could kill all mosquitoes, I'd say, great, do it.
I would definitely kill cockroaches. Nobody likes those things. I hate them so much.
If given the choice, I would get rid of bed bugs and most forms of ticks.
I'll say chiggers and or tapeworms, because chiggers are super annoying and tapeworms are the most disgusting things ever.
Our last question comes from Zeros610. What's the best part of having your own podcast and the best experiences while doing it? It's just fun to put out episodes. Seeing people respond to them is so fun, and I respond to most comments. And it's just fun to talk to people. It's really cool that we have this thing that we all get together and do stuff, talking about interesting things, hopefully. And maybe entertaining people.
Hopefully entertaining, in quotation marks.
I think some of the funnest is that we get to interact with each other with our voices and discovering what our voices were like for the first time. That was really weird.
The best part of quote unquote having our own podcast is really the experience of podcasting. It's something that is completely different from making YouTube videos. It's completely different from talking to people online and posting things on a textual message board. It's a very, very different experience, but I think that it's a really rewarding experience. As we get together each week, we get to talk about different things. We hear ourselves in the week before, and then we get to improve on what we've said, improve on how we say things, and gradually learn how to really just acquire a new skill. I think this is what it is. It's a kind of skill similar to radio broadcasting that I don't know how useful it'll be, but it's a really, really neat experience to just kind of expand our horizons and be able to do something that is just fun, ultimately.
The best part of being in a podcast is that it makes me feel like I'm famous and that I matter in the world. The worst part is that that's not actually true, and I am, in fact, just another cog in the machine.
Well, that's depressing.
That has been the Modcast. So, happy 20 episodes, guys. It's been fun. And goodbye.
Bye, scrubs.
Play that outro music. That's really nice.